point, and today's discussion is on political economy factors that are influencing growth. In other words, we're talking at how the distribution of resources in Uganda can be affected to have better service delivery, better governance, and a better life for every Ugandan. Now, joining us on this discussion is Honorable Onekalit. Mr. Honorable Onekalit Dennis, if I did sound that wrong, thank you so much. He's the MP of Kitgum District, and definitely he's going to add a lot of insight to our discussion. Honorable, you're most welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Comrade Anthony.
Yes.
And my senior, who I always feel so proud when I sit near him. He's one person who has inspired this country a lot. He has done a lot for this country. When I was coming, someone asked me that, will you be with the lion himself? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm privileged to be here. I apologize for the late arrival. We had a lot of interaction on the Karamoja saga,
Yes.
the 39 billion case. So I left a bit late, and there's few select committee out of the Presidential Affairs Committee that we are left behind to look at the paperwork of Office of the Prime Minister.
Wow.
It's good. We are here now looking at a very powerful topic, Uganda political economic factors,
Yeah.
the fiscal space.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Starting with that point of the Kitgum saga, before we go even any further, are we going to have
Karamoja.
Yes, the Karamoja. Yes, the Karamoja saga. It's something we've seen in Parliament every now and then. The misappropriation sometimes of funds, misuse sometimes of funds, and we keep going back and forth. And one case goes, another one comes. Are we going to ever come to an end of this, or it's actually a new norm?
Anthony, it is tricky. They need to, as leaders of this country, definitely we need to take a grand step. If we are to fight the vices of corruption in this country, if we are to really realize the importance of keeping our economy, if we are to balance the development in this country, to ensure that both region, from the north to the central to the east to the west, develop uniformly. Of course, it is uniquely different, that it is quite hard, but at least the gap should not be too wide. Like, let me give an example of the case we are undertaking now. We are investigating a mockery into the fight of corruptions, a mockery into the fight of poverty in this country. When 39 billion has been allocated as a supplementary budget for the Karamojong, then the Minister for Karamoja Affairs feel deemed right to use about 14,500 iron seats as our donations to our friends. 14,500 iron seats. 14,000.
Wow.
Now you would wonder, what laws give the minister to create a donation space? And who deserves a donation? She has given to our fellow ministers. She has given to the big shot, maybe with the intention of sharing the spoil. So you look at the entire package and you realize that as leaders, as citizens of this country, not only leaders, we need to agree that we should fight corruption if our economy is to be stabilized, if our fiscal policy is to take the right direction, without which we are wasting time. And just like Justice John Bosco stated in 2014 in one of his rulings, Katusi, that he is tired of prosecuting small fish, yet the real crocodile are swimming in water. And what we are doing as members of parliament right now, particularly on the Committee of Presidential Affairs, we're looking at this case, we are trying to ensure that this big crocodile in water, which are really swindling the economy of Uganda, are fished out of the water.
Are they going to be brought to?
They need to definitely be told and they need to feel that corruption is very expensive. So that is what we're trying to do. And I know the issues surrounding the fighting of corruption in this country has almost now become a joke, because we only talk but we don't practice it. Because that very office which is meant to fight corruption, it is very corrupt. That very office which is directed to monitor the corrupt also end up in the corruption saga. Like when you look at one of our precious office in this country, that is the office of the Prime Minister, the OPM has become the hub of corruption scandals, with a lot of its staff and the technical staff really playing a lot of syndicates to ensure that goods or budget resources which are meant to benefit the vulnerable actually end up in their pockets. And as citizens, at times we are forced to redefine what is affirmative action. If what is planned for affirmative action to bring other people who are vulnerable on the table is not given to them, instead it is given to the rich, then are we trying to affirm the rich to be richer and the poor to remain poor? So these are the kind of things that we need to direct our discussion always on, to ensure that this country is created a check and balance well, and if possible, we redirect the country to the right trajectory.
Absolutely. Before you came in, when we were discussing with Honorable Henry, one of the things that popped up in our discussion was rationalization. This was a discussion that started in 2018, and according to Honorable, I think at least only 2 companies have, or rather 2 ministries or departments have been able to actually be rationalized. But this is a policy that was actually made for over 66 departments, and currently there's still paperwork going on, and paperwork means that things could take a little bit longer. These ministries, departments and agencies are still receiving budget.
Wasting resources.
Yes, they still have budgets on the floor of Parliament, and we still have the same talk of rationalization. Do you think we are moving in a positive direction in this end, especially when it comes to frugality, where the President himself has advised us to be frugal in the current economic situation?
Actually, we have been analyzing the budget framework paper. And I remember we were in for a retreat, and I posed a very big question that why can we really have the needs for this country clearly stipulated on table, so that we know what are critical for this country and what are important but not much important now, so that we focused our budget accordingly, not scattering them. For example, under science and technology, the minister Mosenare, there are a lot of projects, about 54 projects, 54 project activities from various sectors which are being brought on board to be funded under that ICT, science and technology section. Now, most of them are repetition of the others. And for example, when you look at sericulture, you look at activities in sericulture and how many structures they are trying to create across the country with very thin budget line. And if you don't meet their demand, it means the structure they have created across the country will be put to waste. We have started very many things which are of course, they are important in the country, but we don't have the capacity to finish them at once. We are working on the Kira EV, the Kira motors. We want to begin manufacturing vehicles in this country. But again, one would ask himself that before we talk about manufacturing vehicle, are we eating well and covering ourselves with blanket well? Now, if you don't have food and people in Karamoja are dying of hunger, the poverty rate in actually is 67.8%. Then you want to begin making vehicles. Does it make sense? So our direction need to be clearly defined so that we know what is best for the country, what deserve our budget more, so that we don't split them into pieces that at the end of the day becomes inconsequential, does not deliver results. We need to go for one thing, deliver in it, tell the story as we push for others. So that is by my own perception. Otherwise, when you look at the fiscal policy, or you talk about fiscal space,
Yes.
Now, fiscal space is a flexibility of the government to decide to use money in activities which are important for the country without affecting other activities of the country, other growths of the country. Now, do we have that budget? Do we have that money? When I was coming, my senior was talking about our death issues, how we are borrowing a lot from outside. In fact, we are depending on foreign donations. A country whose health is being run by outside people. All the Panados and everything we take are donations given to us. They decide our fate. And very soon the GMO, when it comes on board, even our food will be controlled by the outside world. So why can't we first streamline what we want as a country, what is so basic to us, before we bulk our interest to an extent that does not even fit what we have? So that is the biggest issue that we have, the political economy of this country. We need to look at it. Otherwise, we have interest from the president. He has his own interest, which interests at times are not aligned to what is visible in the country. So that is a big challenge. If we can align our interest to what we can afford, to some extent, I am forced to believe that the resources, the taxation that we would realize from this country would actually do something for this economy. If we would use our taxes well, or if we would put what we call shared
Prosperity.
yeah, shared prosperity, or I wanted to use issues of whereby everybody is suffering to contribute the taxes. Now, if I am contributing the taxes, my senior here is not contributing taxes, and yet what I'm contributing need to serve the entire institution. Doesn't make sense. Now, if we can streamline how taxation is collected, whether you're a big wig in the government, if you have imported goods, pay the taxations. Don't say order from above, release this good to 1 billion. We would generate some resources. Now, if you would generate that, if we are generating that resources, those kind of monies on board, we need to be wise on how we can put them. Even if it is on affirmative action, there are certain affirmative action that can be done in a better way. For example, like the PDM, the Paris Development Model. The coinage of the language is fine-tuned so well. Operation well creations. And Tandikwa, those kind of things. Now, the current PDM has a lot of issues. We have been on the ground. We were in the recess for 2 weeks. Now, the government has come with a very good thing, trying to put in some little money there, but it will not really be impactful to our people, because the money will not benefit the rightful people who are supposed to benefit in it. The real vulnerable people, the real poverty-ridden people who should be taken out of poverty. The money will instead go into the pockets of the usual suspect, the people who are known to writing good project proposals, to taking this kind of money. They're the one benefiting. Instead, this money will help the well-to-do, not the poverty-ridden. I came with a proposal at that time in Parliament that instead of giving 100 million per parish, like for us in the people of Acholi, give us tractor for sub-county, or give us oxen and ox flour per household, because we have the land which is very fertile, and that can help to bring people who are doing very bad up. Yeah. If this kind of forest development model is regionalized, people from the West, they're growing coffee. Support them in coffee. Invest in coffee. Give them a profit market for coffee. Invest in the northern. You know, the same thing in the central. There is also coffee here. Then in the east, if there is maize and what, invest in that. If you can regionalize that, that would make more sense. But you find we have splitted the little meager resources that we have into very many codename activities. We began in Miyoga. Before we have realized Miyoga is performing, we have jumped to PDM. Before we have concluded PDM, we are joining another thing. There is Operation Well Creation, doing Operation Over for what? We realize it. Is it consequential? Is it benefiting people? And all this kind of thing. And of course, politics affects economy. But again, patriotism should help check and balance. When the state resorts a lot into giving what we call awards, rewards to supporters, those who believe in the philosophy or what they believe in, than giving a general support to the entire citizens, irrespective of the political belonging, irrespective of your affiliation of politics and religion. Really, if things can be neutralized, if we don't toe the line of politics too much when it comes to development, if you don't only give to the children of the RDC and the chairman LC5 and the chairman of the NRM the children of the NRM chairperson, but we give it according to how we see the situation and how the person is capable of using the resources to develop the particular area, would make more sense. So there's a lot of mismatch along the way that need to be corrected. And who should come with the debate is a big question. Because most of the systems, most of the organizations, most of actually the sectors in this country are paralyzed intentionally. Parliament, which is a legislative arm, is remotely controlled by the head of the state, who heads the executives. The judiciary is also remotely controlled by the head of the state. So you find the independency is not there. These ministers, you see them, they are paper tigers. They only write, but they don't make authoritative decisions. They must consult and they must be told of what to do and what to say. They have no power. So if you look at all these kind of things, you realize that there should be, actually, power should not only center to one person. If all these departments are working very well, it would create check and balance very well. But you realize now that President Museveni himself is standing on the revolving door, whereby he wants to legislate, he wants to implement, he wants to be a beneficiary to cry with others.
Made serious statement.
You get it? So it is terrible. So if there is a way how we can streamline all these kind of things, we will realize uniqueness in the growth of this country.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dennis, for those insights.
Serious
They are quite serious insights there. Honorable Henry, just in the same line as before we get to close this discussion here, in your own experience, what are some of the most effective strategies to build political will and also consensus around development in terms of prioritizing, government coming to prioritize without the influence of politics and personal interests? What are some strategies? Because you've been in parliament, you've represented Ugandan parliament, even on other bigger platforms. So what could be those strategies for us to stop mixing things?
I think you are making me repeat what Honorable said in my friend here. Of course, the strategies, first of all, good governance. That's number one. It's not even a strategy, it is a you must do. And when I'm talking about good governance, I don't want to hide the word corruption within that good governance. Fight corruption. If we are talking about distribution of resources, in whose pockets are those resources ending in? If you appropriate 34 billion, you say the honorable, for the people who can a supplementary budget.
39.94 billion.
Oh, that's about 40 billion.
Yeah.
40 billion supplementary budget means that emergency funding. People are on a critical stage, they are on a drip. So you pass 40 billion for people who are in a drip, and then you do not inject it into their life, and you put it into, you share it here in Kampala, which means those who are in drip, they die completely. And that's what happened to the people of Karamoja.
Can I give you a scenario of what happened in that money?
Yes, no problem.
It is laughable that the 39.94 billion that was given as a supplementary budget to help the people of Karamoja, and that money was specifically to help the Karasunas. Karasunas are these warriors of Karamoja who do a lot of cattle rationing raiding.
Yes.
Now that money was actually to remove those Karasunas from the rationing business so that they settle.
Exactly.
And also help uplift the poverty-ridden people around that place. And that money was divided into 3 sectors. To buy goats, 16 goats per person. Per person. 15 people per parish get 16 goats per person. 15 goats and 1 buck, that is the male, each Karasuna. Now, that 22 billion that was budgeted for goat, not all the goats were bought. Those who were bought, actually, there's one district called Napak. We interface with the chairperson. The chairman said 70% of the goats that were supplied died because they bought poor quality. That was number one. They brought them during a period of foot and mouth disease. They were infected, so they went as if, for them, they're saying as if the government have ill-gotten motive against them. They want to finish their animal. You can see where we have reached. Now, the 22 billion, not all the goats have been supplied, but even the ones supplied, most of them died. 8 billion was budgeted for iron seeds. Now, the iron seeds of 8 billion, only 1,000 iron seeds, the president went and launched it in Moroto. On the launching, 650 was given out, 350 iron seeds remain in the store. Now, it ended with launching. And yet, this is the money we get in 2021 December. So, since the launching money, the launching of the iron seeds giving out, no iron seeds crossed to Karamoja. Instead, we realized the Karasunas are in Kampala instead. The ministers are Karasunas. So
and you see,
the minister chose to donate to Africa.
Supplement your point. That money was meant to revigorate the economy of Karamoja among the Karasunas. What we are talking about, political economy. So you can see what's happening. You have that kind of, and what's happening, Honorable, we are talking about with Karamoja. I want you to have an interest on, like, for example, projects of NUSAF, Northern Uganda Social Action Fund. There have been NUSAF 1, NUSAF 2, NUSAF 3, NUSAF 4. A lot of money injected there. But when you go to do the analysis, you will find that it was lip service.
True.
We are talking about these I wish Parliament can even do the forensic audit of the COVID funds.
We are doing it.
You there would be shocked.
It is with us in park.
Absolutely.
They will be shocked. Because you see, that is the time when expenditure was being done without the scrutiny of Parliament, without the oversight of Parliament. So, and if you see, like, for example, our government of NRM has been in power for 7 years. Oh, let's say if we take like the last 30 years and we say how much fund has been cumulatively injected within the fiscal space that we are talking about, you would find that there would be no poverty in Uganda.
Completely.
But because they abuse year in, year out, year in, year out. Now next year we shall be looking at something different. Within that year we forget this year. We have forgotten 2022. We have forgotten 2021. We have forgotten those COVID funds. We have forgotten all those funds. But they abuse the impunity. We have forgotten money that have been appropriated to health and has not been done, it's been implemented. We have forgotten the 1 trillion that was for Boa Hospital that vanished. Yeah. We have forgotten money that was put in all these sectors. So we keep on forgetting, and scandal after scandal, scandal after scandal. So what we need to do, the strategy is fight corruption.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable. We're going to take a very short break.
Oh, we are in a break?
Yes.
Then I will start from there.
Yes, we are going to start from there. You're watching Smart24 TV, and this is the point where we talk policies that are regarding the economy here in Uganda. And I'm talking to Honorable Dennis, who is the MP of Kitgum, and as well Honorable Banyanzachi, who is the Director of Operation Wealth Creation. Stay with us, we'll be right back.